Hi and welcome to B-Movie Review. Today we're going to be having a look at Masters of the Universe. So this did actually have a theatrical release, so arguably it may not be a B-movie, but certainly if you're looking back today, you probably sort of watch this, it would certainly seem like a B-movie. So Masters of the Universe came out at the tail end of the sort of the He-Man phenomenon that was sort of going on in the sort of the 80s really. Now this film stars Dolph Lundgren and Frank Langella as He-Man and Skeletor, and was pretty much made on the cheap, really more of a cash-in than anything else. So if you're a He-Man fan or a Master of the Universe fan, and I was back in the day, you may be a bit disappointed with this film, even back then. I mean, it was nice to have a live-action He-Man film, but, you know, when I was younger and certainly watched this, I couldn't help but being a little bit disappointed with what I saw. I mean, there are some things that you kind of will take you back. I think Dolph Lundgren was probably the best person to play He-Man, certainly at the time. I mean, you got to bear in mind this is the days of like over the top action stars, and you know, I can't really think of a better person than Dolph Lundgren, certainly for the budget that they had. But the main issue that is with this film essentially is that it takes place on Earth rather than Eternia. Obviously, Eternia being the native planet of where they're all from. And that was done for budgetary reasons, obviously. So they didn't have to have expensive sets with sort of out-of-the-world creatures and sort of architecture and everything like that. So the action is moved to Earth. Now, you do have some familiar characters in there. You've obviously got He-Man himself, who instantly never transforms into Adam. And obviously, if you're familiar with the He-Man sort of mythos, he basically transforms into, a slacker young boy, or or his version of himself, where he's certainly not He-Man. People don't realise he is. But this time he is always He-Man. So there's a slight change there. You've got Man at Arms and Teela, which are fairly faithful, I would say. They look pretty decent. And on the bad guy side, you have Skeletor, obviously played by Frank Langella, with obviously Frank Langella's a decent actor, so you get a over the top hammy performance in that, but it's kind of fun. And then you have Evil-Lyn, and I think you have Beastman in it as well. But all the other characters are not actually from the cartoon shows, or the comics, which I didn't really understand why they didn't sort of use the material that had already existed. And instead, they have a bunch of made-up characters. I mean, the only thing I can think of is that they wanted to sell new action figures, and by doing so, they had to make new characters. But it would have been nice to have seen these sort of representations of the characters you actually had liked. For example, instead of Orko, you have a character called Gwildor. He almost plays the same role, so I don't really understand why they had to change him. Again, possibly for budgetary reasons, I don't know. And on the bad guy side, the only real henchman you have, I think, is Beastman, and he's not even the main guy. There's a I forget the character's name, but there's a bad guy with like a huge quiff and a hooked hand, which I hated. I thought, why can't we have like Trapjaw or Triclops or someone like that? And this guy sucks. And the one decent new character they had, Sorceress, who was killed off first. So that's basically your characters. Now, as I say, the action takes place on Earth, and they meet a young couple, one being a young Courtney Cox, and essentially is essentially a chase movie on Earth. Now, I did notice that some of the bad guy armor was actually used from the sort of generic soldier people I'm talking about from Skeletor's side, or actually used from other B movies. For example, Space Chase. If you have a look at the film Space Chase, it's got exactly the same armor that is used for these bad guys, which is quite interesting. So they're obviously recycling a fair bit of props from other films from the same production company. And the story is fairly generic, to be honest with you. There's nothing terribly original. The special effects, I suppose, are palatable for the time, but really it is just a quick B-movie cash-in. The acting is slightly choppy. I mean, Dolph Lundgren certainly had better roles, and the real issue for me, as I say, is the disrespect for the original source material. It's not widely regarded, this film, to be quite honest with you. There are not many people that I would sort of say will defend this film particularly. There are a couple of sort of I guess amusing bits, and there's one scene with actually a reasonable gore special effect, which I was surprised actually that actually made it. And actually, when I saw it, I thought, oh, blimey, that looks quite realistic. But other than that, it's a bit of cheesy, I suppose, is the word you're looking for. Now, rumours are obviously that we're going to be seeing a new Master of the Universe film at some point. I don't know if that will actually happen, so this may be all we get. It's a shame it was such a departure from the source material, but I think maybe Master of the Universe and He-Man may be a tricky property to develop. It's a very sort of niche market and sort of straddles that sort of line between sort of camp and action. So I have to give this one a 5 out of 10. You know, you may get some fun out of it if you kind of like you just to sort of brainless action films. Otherwise, you're going to be put off by this film. So have you seen it? Let me know what you think of it, and would you be interested in seeing a new He-Man film? Let me know in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.